Hi, and welcome to the Bootleg Book Club. My name's Sam, and usually my sister says her part here, but she's not with me today. My sister recently moved to Texas after receiving her MBA, and I thought I would just go ahead and still do a video because I have a ton of books that I've been hauling for the past couple of months, and I thought this would be the perfect place to talk about why I've been doing that and the books that I've managed to pick up. When we started our YouTube and our Bootleg Book Club podcast and website and all of that stuff, we were so gung-ho about this project. At the time, we were both living in the same state, and we just always had a love of books and just really were inspired to do this from Book Talk and Bookstagram, which are both platforms that have now completely exploded. But since starting the project about 3 years ago, she went ahead and got her master's and has moved on to Texas to start a new job. I myself, even though I'm still living in Georgia, have had, I want to say, at least 2 or 3 other jobs since then. And it's just been a lot of change. More recently, my role within my job has changed quite a bit. And it just felt like a lot of it has been completely out of my control and kind of I just had to go with the motion, especially in this job market. And I found myself reading a lot of romance novels. I've always loved romance novels, but I feel like I would switch it up with a mystery here or there, or some type of thriller. But honestly, I've been doing a lot of romance novels, and I one time was listening to an audiobook, and it was Catherine Center's The Bodyguard, and I almost never listened to author's notes, and for some reason, probably because I was driving and didn't feel like switching over to something else, I listened to the author's note, and she talked about the cliche of romance novels and people thinking it's negative, that they are often predictable, and we always know that the cornerstone of a romance novel is that it's going to have a happily ever after. And I found Catherine's perspective on this really refreshing, and it made me understand why I probably was gravitating towards romance novels in this season of my life. She talked about how believing in love is believing in hope, and she talked about how to read these types of books, it means you are holding on to some type of optimism. And I just realized that, I needed to see or feel hope somewhere, because I wasn't really necessarily feeling that for my own personal life, because of all the changes that were happening. And then I just needed something to be optimistic about. And that's kind of where romance novels had really come in a way where they've always been for enjoyment. But I think particularly in this season of my life, it's also been about having hope somewhere. In this past year, since actually posting a video to YouTube, I would say we have posted some things to Instagram here and there, but definitely not to YouTube or Spotify. I think it's hard to also tap into creativity in moments like these when you feel like you are just fighting for your life in general. I think obviously the political atmosphere contributes to general feelings of despair. And I think when on top of that, having things going on in my personal life just doesn't help. And honestly, it's just been feeling really super tired, and it's just hard to feel creative. And it's you want to be creative. If creativity is a part of you and it excites you, you want to put out something creative. You want to do something creative, and it doesn't have to be content, right? For me, a long time it was scrapbooking, writing, these types of things. And even that, I wasn't able to partake in that. I always say kudos to those people who have 9-to-5s and 5-to-9s. I just can't imagine it. And particularly where their 5-to-9 is content making after they spend all day doing a typical, more traditional job. I can't imagine doing this. Doing basically 2 full-time jobs at the same time. Anyway, so what has been in my control is buying books, I guess. And so I've been getting a lot of joy and hope from purchasing books. So I have a book haul here that goes back to about April. And some of these I'm planning on reading and keeping on my shelf. And some of these I'm planning on honestly tearing up for my scrapbook. I also have recently had an idea to create a scrapbook that is specifically for books in quotes. And that was partially because Five Below in my area kept coming out with these sketchbooks that I just thought were the cutest thing. I've purchased 3 so far. Don't have any idea how I would fill up 3 sketchbooks. And there's another one that I'm still thinking of going to get. It's has bows all over it. But these are the 3 that I have so far. This is a purple floral one. This is also a floral one. You can definitely tell my style by looking at these sketchbooks. This is also the type of stuff I like to wear, which my sisters always make fun of me for. And then this is the 3rd one. I just love the color purple and thought this print was kind of cool. So yeah, some of these will stay intact and go on my shelf, and some of these will not stay intact and become part of my whole scrapbooking situation. To start, I've continued doing bookish things because I've always loved doing bookish things. I went to I think the book is called Great Big Beautiful Life release party. I have not read that book yet, but went to the release party, and as part of my ticket, I went to Scholar and Scribe, which is an independent bookstore, and as part of the ticket, they give you a $10 credit to use on anything else in the store. And I got some stickers for my sister, but I also checked out their used books wall and picked this book up. Never read it. It's called In Paris with You by Clementine Bougon, I think is how you would say it. And it is beautifully written. When you open it, it looks like it's almost like in poetry form. It does have like dialogue like a typical book and all of that, but it just seems like to be in poetry form, and I just thought that was a pretty neat feature of it. I haven't read this book in its entirety yet. This is one of the books that I don't anticipate keeping intact. I do think this will be part of my scrapbooking collection, but yeah, this was kind of what started it all in terms of me thrifting books and hauling books in April. Before my sister moved, we did a couple of things together, and one of those things was just hang out and scrapbook. And we wanted to do the scrapbooking project that we had seen on Instagram, where people were taking frames and kind of creating like a collage and putting it into the frame. And so I wanted some book pages and quotes for that. And we went to Goodwill to pick up the frames that we wanted to use. And while I was at Goodwill, our Goodwill is like not the greatest in terms of books, but I went ahead and picked up Eat, Pray, Love. I actually already own this book, but I thought, yeah, some of the quotes in there might be kind of cool for scrapbooking or for our frame project. So this is a book that will not stay intact. And then picked up The Accidental Diva by Tia Williams. So Tia Williams wrote 7 Days in June, which is one of my favorite books. I really enjoy her books. I tried reading The Accidental Diva. I did not get very far, but I do think her writing is pretty interesting, and you can tell the evolution of her writing if you go back and read some of her earlier books to her more recent books. I prefer her more recent books, but I still thought this would be cool for quotes and scrapbooking. And then the Friends of the Decatur Public Library were doing a book sale, like fundraiser, and their books were only like $1 a piece, and I just had to at least go check it out for a little bit, and I did. These books are in Ziploc bags because if you are on Book Talk or Bookstagram, you know about how people say like used books, you're supposed to put them in the freezer for a couple of days, and I do that. I've never looked this up to see if it actually kills bugs, but I tell you, I do it religiously. Like, oh yeah, it's killing all the germs, all the bugs. I have no idea. But anyway, so these are in Ziploc bags because they were initially in the freezer for a little bit. So what I picked up from the Decatur Library sale, Wuthering Heights. I was a Pride and Prejudice girl in high school, but I could not find Pride and Prejudice at the book sale. But I do know this has like some pretty unhinged love quotes that I was like, it'll be cool for the scrapbooking. The Black Poet. I have not read this book. I do enjoy poetry a lot. I love going to spoken word shows, and I just thought this would be fun, particularly for scrapbooking as well. Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli. I read this when I was in elementary school. I remember enjoying it, and I decided I wanted to have a copy. Bought it. Twilight. I actually own a full set of Twilight in hardback original covers. One of my really good friends bought it for me a couple years back. My original set from when I was in high school, I lent it to somebody and they never returned. And so my really close friend knew that, so he purchased that for me. But I know I was not gonna rip those pages up for a scrapbook. But I saw this and was like, I gotta buy it. I know I would love reading through it again, highlighting, annotating, and then using it for scrap. I know there's a lot of people who go back and forth about this book, but it is the romance book of my teenage years. You will never get me to hate it. Sorry, not sorry. The Art Forger by B.A. Shapiro. I love heist books as well, mysteries, all that type of stuff, in addition to romance books. I have not read this author before. I have not read this book before. It looked really interesting. I loved the synopsis and picked it up. It was $1. Kennedy Ryan, This Could Be Us. I've heard a lot of things about Kennedy Ryan. I will be honest, her first book that I tried reading, let's see if it's even in here, Before I Let Go. The trigger warning and Before I Let Go scared me, and I did not get past like chapter 1 or chapter 2. I just was like, I had this like sense of dread, like what's gonna happen? Just didn't find myself enjoying it. And I know she's like the queen of slow burn. Anyway, I saw this, was like, let me just try again, and also decided that even if I hate it once again, there might be some cool quotes for scrapbooking. There's more, if you can imagine. I also did a Books A Million haul, which Books A Million is not necessarily thrifting, but they do have like this table. They'll have tables where it's like books under $5, books under $7. And so I went to that table. So I'm going to also consider this thrifting. I This book was $3.97. I picked up For the Love of the Bard by Jessica Martin. I've never read anything from this author, but thought I would give her a try. I feel like I thought the synopsis was good. I don't know why I picked this up, but I feel like that's probably why. Finding Mr. Perfect. This book was $5 by Cody Gary, excuse me. Never read anything by this author as well. I own a cat, obviously, and she has a cone because she's been over grooming herself. She has anxiety like her mama. Anyway, I picked it up because of the cat thing, $5 thing, and thought I'd try it. Nora Roberts, Three Fates. This book was $3.97. I know Nora Roberts is pretty popular. I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head any books that I've read by her, but knew that I wanted to. Hi, baby. Knew that I wanted to, so picked this one up as well. And then I am part of the Facebook group Black Girls Read Too. I love that group. If you are a Black woman who loves to read, you should definitely join that Facebook group. I'm not a big user of Facebook. I literally only go on for Facebook Marketplace and to read that group. And someone posted that she was going on vacation and she just did this book outlet haul. Which book should she take with her? And it was because the book outlet was doing, which is a used bookstore that is online. They were doing a sale on all of their fiction books. And I thought that would be a good time to pick up some books for scrapbooking purposes and to potentially try some other books that I've been wanting to read. So I am a big Elise Bryant fan. In fact, I became a fan through doing the podcast. We read her book. I believe we read 2 of her books, actually. We read Happily Ever Afters and One True Loves. I love One True Loves. I believe I actually already own a copy of this. Couldn't find it. I've also moved since we've started the Bootleg Book Club. Anyway, couldn't find my copy of it and wanted to have a copy. And I'm hoping I find my other copy because I really want to use this for scrapbooking purposes. I'm really identified with the main character. I loved this book. Highly recommend it. Anyway, I love Elise Bryant from this book. And she generally does young adult. She did her first adult fiction, and this is a mystery, if I'm not mistaken. It's Elementary. Yeah, murder was not on the PTA agenda. It's a murder mystery. I am so excited to read this, and so I picked that up from the book outlet. The other book that I haven't read that I picked up is The Burnout by Sophie Kinsella. Sophie Kinsella is one of my favorite authors. I love listening to the audiobooks that she has on Libby because the narrators that she typically uses are British, and I just find myself loving those types of voices. I have loved pretty much every book I've listened to of hers. Anyway, The Burnout has a pretty long wait list, and I thought I would just go ahead and pick it up. It was part of the book outlet sale, so I did that. The rest of the book outlet books I actually have already read them, just didn't own them, and I'm having a really hard time trying to decide if I'm going to cut them up or not, because I honestly bought them because I love these books. And I don't know where I stand quite yet, but I did buy them. Emily Henry, Book Lovers. I like Emily Henry is a good writer. I don't love all of her books. Book Lovers and Beach Read are probably my favorite. Beach Read was not not part of the sale. I do want a copy of Beach Read, but Book Lovers is one of my favorites by her. Sally Thorne, Second First Impressions. She wrote the book The Hating Game that became a movie. I actually don't think The Hating Game is one of her best books. I prefer some of her others, Second First Impressions being one of them. And then, fun fact, she wrote one of my favorite Twilight fan fiction stories, and it is still up. I would have to find the name. I just said it's my favorite and couldn't tell you the name. But it's like a fantasy. It's an alternate universe version of Twilight, but still fantasy. My gosh, this woman can write a romance story. I love her. I love this book. Christina Lauren. I know these are like 2 best friends who write books together. I have not read one book of theirs that I haven't liked. I enjoy their writing so much. I would love to own all of their books, in fact. This is The Soulmate Equation. I know Allie Hazelwood is someone you either love her or hate her. I honestly thought if I was someone who only read her first book and that was it, I probably wouldn't enjoy her. I have to say, that's my cat's food. I've read a lot of her books. I do get why people may not love her as an author, but I have to say that Love Theoretically is probably one of my favorite romance books. When I worked at a library for a little bit while I was trying to figure out my life, and the librarians and librarian assistants were able to choose their favorite books to put on display, and I had this one up for a long time. Like, I really like this book. This is one of the books that I couldn't tell you if I'm gonna cut this up yet. I just don't know yet. I would love to just have a copy that's still on my shelf. That's the thing. The last book that I purchased was Flying Solo by Linda Holmes. I've read this book as well. Love Linda Holmes. Have listened to a lot of her books on Hoopla and Libby. I think really Libby, but wanted to own a copy. This one I will definitely go ahead and scrapbook with. I don't necessarily need to keep it on my shelf. I think she's a pretty good writer. Her characters just feel so real, like on it, like just real, like real people that you could come across. And I think for people who read romance know that sometimes the characters just feel very out of touch, but Linda Holmes' characters feel just real. My most recent haul was from Facebook Marketplace, where this woman sold me a bag of like maybe 16 or 17 books for 10 bucks. I did an Instagram reel about all of those books and the ones that I would be keeping, and I'm keeping out of that pile 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7 of them. If you want to see those books, go over to our Instagram. But yeah, that's about it. That is what I have been up to. It's been changing jobs, trying to figure out life, and my sister has completed her MBA and moved for a job, and we've both, you know, been just going through a lot of change, I would say, and I have been overspending on books, clearly. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video or found it relatable in terms of, you know, having that genre that really speaks to you and can often get you through some hard times in life. I hope you have found a genre that you enjoy that is getting you through these times. Sometimes it's just nice to unplug and not watch the news. Tell me what you've been reading in these interesting times. All right, y'all. Read, believe, love.